Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. Growing up in a video store was an odd education. It was very fragmented and driven by personal interest, and I've talked about that in many of these intros. Now, with the internet almost always at our fingertips, it's easy to look things up. And with podcasting, feeling like you have to have seen everything and know about each director and on and on. So I hear less learning. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are lots of people talking about things they don't know about, but those conversations are lacking a moment, and that's the learning part. So, with these episodes, I do my research, sure. I respect the subject matter and the efforts of those involved. I hope I do a great job at that, but I also hope to learn something from our guests. And that is precisely what happened the first time I spoke with this guest. And it happened once again in this episode. So I hope that you appreciate listening to these moments of learning. I know we could all listen more and learn from each other. But I also just watched a sad movie while holding a kitten sleeping, so I mean the kitten was sleeping. I wasn't sleeping. I watched the movie. I watched a sad movie while holding a sleeping kitten, is what I'm saying. So I might be a little emotional right now. So maybe we should just get to it. The film is the first two episodes of the anime Spirit Warrior. The guest is an animator, and this is VH Us. Hello, and welcome to VHS, the podcast where every other episode is about a film, and the guest has the profession portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and this episode, we go back to the drawing board as we look at some anime, or anime. I mean, it depends on how you want to say it. My guest for this special episode is Chris Boylan, director and creator of Redline Ronin and the Seven Deadly Swords, and the overall hero of 07 animation. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
So what's new with you? What's going on? What are you working on?
Right now is a bit of a downtime for me, so I just finished a couple of game trailers that may or may not come out. That's
Perfect.
always fun. We wrapped a Pokemon project right around Halloween, which came out and was well received. So that was pretty awesome. And aside from that, I'm just working on a short film right now.
And where can people find the Pokemon thing?
That you can go if you search Pokemon Miss Magus, Mismagius, that'll pop right up. It's a really cute little short film about a ghosty Pokemon, and she kind of gets misjudged for her appearance, and hijinks ensue.
Awesome. Since you mentioned this short, I was allowed to see the animatics for something that you're currently working on. And no joke, it's really impressive. And I had
Thank
some
you.
very favorite specifics that I won't say right now that happen in it. But I will say that there's a way that you sort of transition, or I don't even know how you call that in animation itself, but like moving from one point of view to another point of view fluidly, and those are so satisfying that there was a couple sections in it that I rewound just to go through it again.
That's awesome. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think you're talking about the screen wipe transitions that I did a couple of times.
No, there's a sight like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. Looking down the
scope.
gun sight. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's great. It is utterly
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah, I love it. And I see sort of a through line to the short that you did before the Ronin and the Seven Deadly.
Yeah.
There's a, and I know this is just the animatics, but my brain was trying to fill in things that will be happening later on. You like movement of the camera if it was a film, right? There's like
Yes.
just the way that things, it's so, that's my jam in film. So seeing that in animation, I'm like, I'm all in. There's not a dull moment there.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Something that I really try to emulate is that old school, like 90s, kind of like what we're going to be talking about tonight, like that
Cool, cool.
1990s anime where it's like these guys had three buttons and a piece of lint,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, well, we got three buttons and a piece of lint, so let's make a movie. And they just cut corners wherever they could.
Hmm.
And so that's sort of where I'm like, I'm a one-man show. I'm going to crib from their notes and just be like, okay,
Yes.
can we get away with a camera pan here? Can we get
Yes.
away with some multiplane action? Like, what do I have to do so that I don't have to make too many drawings and
Yeah.
animate everything? So yeah, I appreciate that.
And what's the timeline for that project? And does it have a name?
Working title is Wolf.
Hmm.
spelled WULF. There might be a secondary title depending on how it turns out, but for right now, it's called Wolf. I'm hoping to have it done in the next 6 months.
Awesome.
That'd be pretty awesome. If I could have it done quicker, it's like one of those things, it's like it just started. And so I feel like, oh yeah, this is going to go super fast. And 6 months down the line, I'll be like, I have so much work to do still. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. Well, I'm excited to see it, and perhaps when it's finished, we'll have to have another anime conversation.
oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool. Perfect. Now, you previously joined us to discuss Ricky O2, and this episode we'll be talking about Peacock King Spirit Warrior, episode 1 and 2. This season, also, we covered Peacock King. I did the live action film with guest Joe Lascola of Movie Dumpster, so check out that episode too. At the time of this recording, both episodes we'll be talking about are on YouTube, so
Yes.
you can just track them down there. But also, I say check your local video stores like Movie Madness right here in Portland, Oregon. The story. I mean, let's get to the story
Yeah,
of
let's just
these
dive in,
two.
right?
Kujaku is a Buddhist monk who specializes in exorcism and devil hunting. He's a member of Urakoya, a secret organization in Japan that specializes in demon hunting. There is then two more paragraphs just describing what's happening in this, a lot of which I did not understand. And here's some notes on why. In Japan, this series' real name is Kujaku.
Yes.
Kujaku O, which started out as a manga in 1985. Some of the comic issues were adapted for a 5-part anime series, which began in 88 and ended in 94. Around the world, though, the anime series was renamed, and it was called Peacock King.
Peacock King, yeah.
So, outside of Japan, the series was released as a 5-part VHS movie series. I've said the name of my own podcast too many times. Kujaku O was changed to Peacock King with Spirit Warrior underneath. And then a few
Yes.
years later, they released the series on DVD in the States. They dropped Peacock King altogether, and it just became Spirit Warrior, although those two releases are identical. So if you have the DVDs and or the VHS, same stuff. And even though Spirit Warrior Revival of Evil was the first released anime movie in the Spirit Warrior series by the company, it's actually the fourth part.
Yes, it's the fourth part. Yeah.
And so the company in charge of putting the 5-part series out in the States switched around the order of the movies and made Revival of Evil and Region of Darkness the first two films released, which is kind of crazy because Revival of Evil and Region of Darkness are the final two parts of the series. So it's very, very confusing. But I have here,
Yeah.
for anyone that wants to know, the following is the correct order of the Spirit Warrior films. Number 1 is Spirit Warrior Festival of the Ogres Revival. The Ogre's Revival just rolls off the tongue. Despite being released as the third film, it's actually the first. Spirit Warrior Castle of Illusion, which was released fourth, is actually part 2. Spirit Warrior Harvest of Cherry Blossoms, being released fifth, is actually part 3. And Spirit Warrior Revival of Evil, despite being the first released film, is actually part 4. 5, Region of Darkness, being the second released film, even being called Peacock King Spirit Warrior 2, is actually part 5 of the series.
Yes.
So, and as I said, it spawned 2 live action films, the first of which I consider utterly amazing, and the second is very confusing and odd, but if you're into that kind of thing, totally watch it for the fact that there's a genie baby that is heavily focused on. like
Amazing.
like the main star is frozen for most of the film, and it's mostly with Ashura, the Hell Princess, and a genie baby. Our cast for this film, amazing. Toshihiko Seki, has 326 voice credits, including many series, movies, games, Ninja Scroll, Naruto, Mobile Suit Gundam, all things I've read about in anime books. Kamen Rider, am I saying that right?
Common writer.
Kamen Rider. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. I double guessed myself. I mean, all-star voices. Jiko is played by Goro Naya, who's again Kamen Rider, Lupin the Third, Final
Hmm.
Fantasy. Ashura is played by Arisa Ando, who's from Fist of the North Star 1 and 2, and Wicked City, which I'm not even an anime aficionado, and I know Wicked City. Like, that was rad as hell back in the day.
It's very violent.
Yeah, I was so into it. So let's press play on Spirit Warrior. We start with an epilogue that I don't understand. These are all my notes before doing any research, so there's going to be a lot of confusion communicated here. Suddenly we're in Chinatown, and a person sneaks into an antique store to steal the dragon orb. A fight ensues, and our hero murders people with marbles.
Yeah, I love that.
It's so good. Not really divulged anything. I mean, the movie Peacock King itself I love because it doesn't explain a lot of things. It just
Right.
assumes, like, hey, you all know what's happening. We don't. But it's great because you're just constantly being shown things that you don't know are going to happen. And
Right.
in this, there's so much like names and names changing and people that were it's just like it's a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
Then we're at a Nazi gathering. They're all very mad. And then on a bus, Ashura and Peacock. I was calling him Peacock at the time, but it's not Peacock.
Kujaku
Yeah, it's Jaku.
means peacock.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. So like when I was listening to your podcast for the live action and you were calling the character Peacock,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll have to mention that it's Kujaku. Yeah.
Yeah, because
That's
in
why Kujaku O is Peacock King. That's
okay,
yeah.
got it. Because in the film, which I saw first before knowing there was anything other than the film, the subtitles just call him Peacock.
Yeah.
So they never even mention his name. So
So they just
again,
translated it.
yeah. So again, in the States, I clearly was just being like, yeah, it's called Peacock. Is what his name is.
Yeah.
But that's not true. So they're talking on the train about how we skipped training again.
Mhm.
Suddenly, everyone on the bus turns into zombies? Question mark.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's awesome.
This is the thing I love about this type of animation is like people start changing into something, but there's no end game that you know of. Like they just keep morphing
Right.
into something, and then there's this giant demony thing, and you're like, I guess that's everyone. They all just
Yeah.
formed that. Like, it's so cool. There's lots of gore in this. I'll show for people who are into that kind of thing. It starts
Right.
off, and I was like, oh, it's not gonna like be showing things. You never really know what you're into if there's not a rating on something up front, especially on
Right.
YouTube. But then they start getting gory, and I was like, this is very satisfying. Like,
Yeah.
I'm into this.
And the animation quality is like it's classic Madhouse, just like really high level.
Yeah. Yeah, there's we'll get to one of my favorite parts in the whole thing, but it'll live on in my brain forever. Out of nowhere, a man on a motorcycle rides up and has a chain hook situation, which he nails the driver's skull with,
Yeah.
and then flies onto the bus. And I was like, I'm all into it for this dude.
Yeah, this is the best character in the whole thing. He takes a helmet off and he's got sunglasses on at night, and I'm just like, how do I live my life as this guy? Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
And he's like supposed to be rescuing them, but he's also condescending every time he speaks to anybody, which
Yeah.
I love. He's just
He's like, I thought you were supposed to be a monk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. What's that character's name? I couldn't even.
Onimaru.
Okay, that's Onimaru. Okay.
Yeah.
I was.
Which literally means like demon. Oni means demon, and Maru is just like a thing they append to a name to make it a name.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Like Bats Maru from Hello Kitty. That's my favorite
Yes,
reference.
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Oh my gosh. Well, they leap from the bus, it explodes, and from the wreckage, a demon, which is amazing. And then the stranger guy has cards that have faces that cut through the demon, and it's.
Yeah.
I don't even know what any of this is happening, but I was like, I love this. Can I just love something and not understand it? Because that's
Yeah.
clearly what's happening here.
And he says a spell too. He's like, glory of heaven, demon, go straight to hell.
Yeah.
And then he shoots cards out and they turn into like demon faces.
Yes.
But then when they arrive in the actual demon, they turn back into cards and explode.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's typical magic stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I wrote down, this is Onimaru. Also a wizard-looking dude watches from a building rooftop. Yeah, that was my other note.
Yeah.
We don't know who that is because this is not the first film. They go talk to the master, and then they're ambushed by demons and a xenomorph-like dude that has a tongue dagger tail,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going.
Yeah, yeah. And I love this because his master gets killed, and he turns to him, and his last words that he says to him are, your training is incomplete.
Yeah.
Your training is incomplete.
You're not done. You lazy. You skipped all your stuff. I'm dying and disappointed is basically what he leaves him with.
Yeah. He's like, I can't believe you are a disappointment.
Yeah,
girl."
that's it. Next, there's a nude lady, and I lost whatever shred of narrative I knew. That was the note that I made there. I was
she was naked. For what reason?
I have no idea, but I love these films where they're like, and then the wind blows, so you see sort of a butt cheek, and you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, someone's a little horn dog over there. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
But if I saw this at the right age, I would have been like, thank you very much.
Yeah, I was 13 when this came out, and this is like candy.
Oh God,
right?
what am I?
You know?
What is this? My first podcast? We didn't even talk about how did this enter your world? Like clearly for me, I'm seeing this because of you. unbeknownst to you, I was also studying the Peacock film, sort of. And so when did you come into this, and did you know it was a part of something else, or?
No, so what happened was another artist retweeted a GIF of this on Twitter.
Okay.
And I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
I need it in my life. It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I was like, where can I find that? And I found it. So these 2 episodes were animated by Madhouse, and the other 3 were animated by somebody else. And so the guy recommended, just watch these 2. That's all you need. And so that's all I did. And it was on YouTube, episode 1 and episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, these are the first 2 episodes because they're labeled as such. And really, that's it. I mean, like San Francisco Gremlins horror shop,
Yeah.
and then Nazis show up. I'm like, I'm totally in.
Yeah.
Whatever this is amazing. So
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, this is from so long ago, but it's wild to now be discovering something and be like, we've been on the planet at the same time, and I haven't ever crossed this, and nobody's told me about it.
yeah.
Because so much of it is like, yes, every clip, I'm like, yes. Any part that they're not saying someone's name, I was like, I love this.
Yes.
All right, so nude lady. I guess the dragon orb is the key to the seal that keeps the demon world from ours completely. That's my next note that I wrote down. I was
Yeah.
really trying to figure out the logic.
At the time when the star Obansai poured its brilliance from the heavens, the child of darkness descended to Tibet. The child, embracing the dragon orb, became master to the heavenly serpent, and the world was thrown into chaos.
Then there's a guy and a girl who have twins, and an old man hunts a child, stabs his hand to end the darkness, and the kid's named Akira?
Yes.
I was like, okay, this is important, but I don't know who this person is. Somebody will be reborn, and then there's so many names and people being renamed is my next note. It was just like a sea of like so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I was like, see, this is what Peacock King the film did right, is like you know the 5 names that you'll be seeing pretty much, and then they don't
Right.
explain anything else, and it's
Right.
you're just allowed to have fun. This one I was like, should I be taking notes? Like, I feel like I need tacks and string and like write it all on the wall and
Yeah, you got that Charlie Day thing, right? Where you're like,
somehow solve this situation. Next, Nazis gun down a bunch of monks, and a dude steals the orb, but he explodes. It rules. This scene is just like pure action insanity, but so well animated. Like, it's it's gorgeous.
But then they have like stormtrooper aim.
Yes.
Like they gun down all of the monks except for the people that are our main characters.
Uh-huh.
Like they somehow are unscathed, and like people get shot, but they don't kill it. They're very nice. They're like good Nazis somehow. Like they don't murder people. They do, but they don't murder the main characters. You know?
Right. Yeah. They discuss it, I think, beforehand. You don't see it on scene where they're just like, all right, so those guys all look, we'll get all of them, but not those over there. That's going to be important.
Yeah. They look like main characters, so let's just wound them.
We're introduced to Siegfried von Rittgard, which is a great name for
amazing.
Anybody. He steals the orb and travels via Zeppelin, which I was like, that's a choice. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slow way to escape, but...
The Hindenburg, not just a Zeppelin. He travels via the Hindenburg. They just rebuilt it.
It's so wild.
It's amazing.
A girl is forced to take the dragon orb, but she collapses. Now, this lady is not Asura, right?
No, Asura is the brunette that was on the bus.
But who's this lady?
She's the twin.
Okay. She's one of the
Akira.
Okay.
Or Kujaku.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Got it. This twin theme is also something in Peacock King as well. So Ono appears and is just wasting dudes, searches the grounds with his mind, which rules. I thought you probably really liked that scene where he just puts his fingers slowly crossing in front of his eyes as we're seeing the superimposed searching mentally of the castle. I was like, that's really cool. I don't know how you'd animate that, but that's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
There's also a lot of anime stuff where they're just slowly zooming out on something. Like, they're not drawing a new frame of something. They're just sort of, like, panning a little bit. And I always thought that was really interesting because you didn't see that a ton in the States. But then I'd be watching Voltron or something, and I'd be like, well, this is weird that they're just, like, doing this.
This is, like, one nice drawing that
just
slide across.
Okay. Then, oh, man, Ono gets shot up by the bad dude so many times. And it just gets shredded. And this guy just casually shooting from the hip, just hitting him every single shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he tries to hide behind a curtain and he gets shot up a bunch, and then
Yeah.
he retreats to what looks like the planet that He-Man was on. I don't know what was happening
Yeah, they
there.
went to Eternia,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like,
was just
where did
like,
they go?
okay, that's weird. The Nazis then regather, and the heroes must stop them. End episode 1. And each episode's like 50 minutes long. That should be
Right.
mentioned as well. So they're almost like their own films, except this one doesn't really have an ending. It just is like, tune in next week, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, it kind of ended like 3 times.
Yeah, yes.
I got up to change the episode and it kept going. I was like, oh, there's more. Okay.
Yeah. If somebody is into what we're talking about and they go to, we'll say, Movie Madness and rent it or find it and see it, and they like it, what else would you recommend in this same sort of vein?
Ninja Scroll. I
Ninja
mean,
Scroll?
it's like, because it's just a higher quality version of this with ninjas in ancient Japan, right? Like it's
Great.
basically the same visual style, but like really artistically directed. Again, hyper violent. There's some trigger warning, sex
Sure. Yeah, that's
stuff
important.
that's
Uh-huh.
not too great. Ninja Scroll would be one. Demon City Shinjuku is another one that's from an earlier time. It's from 1989.
That's a
I'm trying to
film?
think. Yeah, that's a film.
Great.
That's like 80 minutes, so it's like barely a film, but it's
Yeah.
still a film.
Still counts.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And then I would say Cyber City 080, which is a 3 episode OAV. So that's like 3 45 minute, and that's a similar, like, in that similar vein, but it takes place in like Neo Tokyo in like
Cool.
2034 or whatever, like 10
Yeah.
years from now, basically. Um, that one's really cool. That one's really stylistic as well, and
And
very, obviously violent.
what was that called again?
Cyber City 080.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's a OEDO.
Okay, I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I've seen key art for that one.
Yeah. There's a guy that looks like kind of like David Bowie,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a guy that looks like kind of like John Travolta in Grease, with this big like
Right.
pompadour haircut.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's just like a butch dude with like Cyclops visor.
I mean, what more do you need?
Yeah, how could you go wrong with that?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Before we get into the second one, we're going to take a short break. Now, I have a question for you. What would Vice Squad be without Wings Hauser? Or House 3 without Brian James? Would you watch Panther Squad without Sybil Danning? No. It would be boring. That's how we feel about food and Marshall's Hot Sauce. Wake up your meals with these small batch sauces created and bottled by a chef. These aren't made in a co-packing plant. They're thoughtfully sourced, balanced creations with a focus on quality and flavor. The red chili lime, sweet and a little spicy, like Gage in Pet Sematary. Or habanero carrot curry, which is more spicy and ethereal, like Erotic Ghost Story. Marshall's Hot Sauce has something for everyone, including the mildest, which is a smoked habanero barbecue, kinda sweet, kinda smoky. It would be right at home on the range with Klaus Kinski and The Great Silence. You know what I'm saying. There's also a new line of seasonings with real ingredients dehydrated and combined into fantastic and easy ways to cook for yourself or your family. From the newer pasta and marinara packets, right on down to the explosive volcano sparkle, which I'm sure Zed in Police Academy 3, you know the part where he hangs out in the tear gas training? What a cut up. I'm sure he'd want some sparkle. You'll find it all at marshallshotsauce.com. Enter VHUS podcast at checkout for 20% off. Plus, you might get a little something from me. So head on over, wake up your meals, not to mention Sarah's now teaching classes again, so you can learn hot sauces, pickling, all kinds of stuff. I'm hosting hot sauce tastings where you can hang out for an hour and just eat spicy stuff. But you'll find it all there, marshallshotsauce.com. And now, back to the show. And we're back with episode 2. It kicks off with the same intro, so I thought I was playing the same video. But it's just them explaining. They're like, look, here's a bunch of stuff that's not going to make sense to you, and let's go. And then it picks off right up with the wounded Ko in bed, and he's like, let's get out of here. But the evil dude shoots him a bunch more. And that's right, Ko? Is he called Ko now? Or
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Ko is Marbles.
Okay. Yeah, he's the one getting shot.
Yeah, was he in bed with Kujaku's sister?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then they're hiding out in her room.
Yep, yeah. And
Yeah, okay.
then he got shot up a bunch, and now he's back in bed. He's like, let's get out of here. The evil dude shows up, shoots him a bunch more. The girl stops the murder because the evil is like awakening in her from the
Right.
the
Yeah, her
thing.
powers start to manifest and she starts whooping everybody's ass.
Yeah, and we get a hint that Von Ritgard might be a cybernetic person.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got cyber Nazis in this.
Which just as bad as regular Nazis, people. I'm just going to
I
go on
mean, yeah.
record. That's just because they're cyber. Everyone heads to India? Question mark. I wrote, and then she's
I think it was Tibet.
okay. Perfect. It's so hard because I take notes on my computer, so when I'm watching something on the YouTube, it's like I'm like flipping back and forth, and sometimes pausing it. Sometimes I couldn't really not pause it with this because I would hear a cool sound and be like, I bet that was something rad, and I'd have to go back and rewind it. But anyway, so some of my notes aren't great. So they head to Tibet, and then she's power enough to use the dragon orb. So we get a flashback with a nip slip.
Right. She flashes back and her clothes come off
Yeah.
for some reason.
Her breast becomes exposed, but you're seeing her as a child. I was like, who is this for? This
Yeah.
is very...
What is happening now?
Okay. All right. I get it. Very creative. A battle soon ensues that is undeniably cool looking, I wrote. And that just tells me that I think I missed something happening in the episode because it's not descript at all. But all of the action, I would say, in both of these are great. And do you know if the other episodes are also online or?
I don't. I
'Cause
think they might be. I
I'm
think they might be.
I'm
You might be able to. I think there's like a playlist with just like all of them somewhere.
Okay, because I would love
Yeah.
to watch them in the proper order and
Mhm.
just see if that helps me be a little bit more bright on this.
Yeah. Yeah. This battle that takes place in Tibet, they show up in a truck like hauling ass,
Yes.
and then robot Nazis. Now
Yep.
it's not just cyborgs anymore. We got
That's
robot
right.
Nazis
Full
pop
robot.
out from like
Mhm.
underneath dead bodies, and Onimaru and some other Fist of the North Star looking dude
Yep.
like whoop all their asses.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really rad. Like, I mean, Onimaru again, just twirling that like chain axe thing and just
Yes.
going and throwing it, and it's just like shredding dudes, and they're just like breaking apart into like
Yeah.
robot pieces, and the background's like flashing. It's just like, this is what else is there? Come on.
It's really great. If I had any issues with these two episodes, it would be the like piano motif music that is just relentlessly
Oh
used.
my gosh, every other scene.
It's such a weird tone because like
Yeah.
with Ricky 2, they didn't have that kind of thing. It's just like, this is awesome, kicking ass,
Mhm.
and then this crazy like metal song at the end. But this one, it just keeps like, I'm like, it's not a soap opera. Why are we
Yeah.
doing this? Like, we're talking about destruction of the universe, and we have this one song that we're just gonna keep using.
Yeah, it's burned into my memory now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's. Oh, I'm gonna play it right now in the episode.
Amazing.
Okay. Suddenly, a castle erupts from the ground. Now, this I understood because this happens in the movie Peacock King, and it rules. So I see it erupting, and I'm like, okay, it's got the same sort of H.R. Giger type of thing going on. Like, I love this. I think I know where this is going. It doesn't go where I think it's going to go, but that's what I thought was happening. And then suddenly a Nazi guy tells us what's up. He just fills us in on the narrative and what's happening.
Haushofer, what is that?
That is the mandala of darkness, in which Tenjaho as the forces of darkness are sealed. When the child of darkness stands at the lotus dais in the center of the room, the empire of darkness will be reborn. The source of life's vitality is Tibet. If we cut off the flow of life force to the entire world, our darkness will spread across the globe.
Right, the other Nazi guy.
Yes, yeah. He's just like, let me talk for a while. He's just like, oh, okay. I feel caught up now. Ko appears, gets shot 2 more times before creating this ghost lion cloud thing that just messes up Bad Dude's face and rips his hand off. And that's when he realizes, like...
He doesn't even know he's a cyborg.
He doesn't know. He's like, what is the meaning of this? Which is a funny thing to do if you discover you're a cyborg. Also, there's this thing called the mandala, which is what's going to end the world, or these little
Yeah,
floaty
the
guys.
Mandala of Darkness, which is like the priests of the Demon King.
Yeah,
That was a little
it's
confusing.
a little confusing. When it happened, I would just went with it. I was like, of course. Yeah, that's what happens. So he dies, and it rules. And this is the part I wanted to talk about, because when his hand gets blown off and this whole ghost sequence thing, spirit, whatever it is, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
And then he steps on his head and crushes it. Or
yeah.
the is it the other bad dude does it?
So Haushofer, I kept calling him
Yeah.
Heinrich
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
notes.
Haushofer. He's
So Haushofer stomps Siegfried's head.
yes, and it looks rad. It's
Oh yeah,
so good. It's chef's kiss for the animation there, because you
yeah.
think like, oh, it's gonna cut away from it, and they're like, no, watch it like
No.
expand and explode. It's like,
Plort, splorp.
yep,
Oh my gosh.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Then the other bad dude, that's what I just called him, because I was like, I don't know, I got all these names wrong.
Yeah.
Who was actually evil orbs? He just becomes evil orbs, and
Yeah, that's the Mandala of Darkness or
yeah,
whatever.
and then everything is neon explosions.
Purple lightning.
Yeah, oh, so much, I love it.
The mandala of darkness is complete. Revered Majesty, Tenjaho, your orders. I have but one wish, to engulf this entire world in darkness.
She's ready to rule the world. All the demons are released, and our hero in the demon world now, which has a 6-armed giant in chains, which I was just like, what is that?
Yeah, it's so metal.
It's so cool. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know, how did it get there? I mean, my list of questions at this point is longer than both episodes combined. But I love it, because I also know, like, you have to just surrender to it, because you're not going to get an explanation.
Yeah, just let it wash over you.
Yeah, you just go, uh-huh, I accept it for the amazing artistry and visuals that are before me. I got lost again on what was happening, and then one guy gets blue armor.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, his sister, who's now the Tenja-O, right? The
Yes.
Dark King or whatever.
Yes.
She transforms into this like heavy metal armor. Like it looks straight out of like a
Oh.
heavy metal movie,
Yep.
right? With like horns
Mhm.
and and like boob armor and a bare midriff and whatever. And then he's in the underworld, right? Kujaku. And he's talking to, I guess they call him the Peacock King, the Kujaku-O, who's I guess Tenja-O's twin brother, so twins again.
Yeah, I guess.
And he's like, only the living could go to the world of the living, and if you decide to live,
Yes.
and he's like, I will live. And then Ashura, I guess somehow like spirit calls him back, and then yeah, he's in blue armor
Yeah.
that the Tibetan monks were just hiding. I was
He's
like,
like,
okay,
this is
rad.
the Tibetan monk armor. And I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know if they have. All right. Yeah, sure. He's got the special blue armor.
yeah.
That's going to be important, I'm sure.
It wasn't.
No, it's actually doesn't come back really. A battle ensues. It looks super rad. My favorite moment in this was when there's a lady surfing on a giant snake that's gargling fire as it
Yeah.
flies through the sky. That's the coolest thing ever. Like I don't know, if she had done that in the same room with the 6-armed giant that was chained up, I would have been like, well, this is too much radness.
Yeah. Well, she fights the 6-armed giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
There's blood spraying everywhere. It's really unbelievable. Good triumphs evil. They both die.
They both die.
The castle sinks. And then we see a peacock. So, the light, peacock of light. Because nobody had mentioned peacock the entire time of the film, to my knowledge, because I didn't understand anything in this frame of reference. I'd seen the movie. So from my point of view, I'm somebody who saw the movie Peacock King.
Right.
Heard there was a cartoon, which is, and then watched it and didn't understand why it had nothing to do with the movie that I had seen, which is
Right.
fair. But, when you do the homework on what all preceded everything, then you're like, oh, okay. So the movie just really did its own thing, kind of. And the only thing it did was at one point be like, there's twins. And you're like, see?
Yeah.
This is tied to the Spirit Warrior. But when it showed the peacock thing, I was like, I know that. That's the thing I know.
Yeah.
That happens in
It's
the movie.
Peacock. All right, we finally got
I
there.
got it. Okay, cool. Oh, it's over? And that concludes the second episode. It's wild. The way that they put these together to be part 1 and part 2 makes sense in the States in a way that, like, when
Right.
people took Shogun Assassin from Lone Wolf and Cub series, and
Right.
they're
And
like,
put that together.
they're like, look, Americans, it's got a start, a middle, and an end. Like, there you go. Like,
yeah.
that's it. And truly, in the States, it sounds like people go just watch the first 2. That's all you need. And
Right.
that's sort of what they were going for here. And I think it's successful in that, aside from because it's not really the first one, I was really confused for a lot of it on who I was watching. But
Right.
if we look at the Riki-Oh episode we did, Riki-Oh 2, very different from the film Riki-Oh, and
Right.
doing its own thing in a way. So both of the live action films and their translation or relation to the animated are, they kind of are in the same world, but definitely they're doing their own thing.
Yeah, I feel like the best way to look at it is they're each their own unique adaptations of the source material.
Right.
Right. You just say, okay, well, the manga is the baseline, and then you got Peacock King live action, and they took the idea from the manga and they made it into something else. And then you have Peacock King, the animation, which I hope is similar to the manga, but I don't know. I mean, I never really read anything in the description about Nazis, so
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it's interesting too when select material from the manga become the films of the anime, because then anyone that's a traditionalist with the manga is going to be like, well, this is different than what that was. And it reminds me of something that we were talking about, I think off mic for the last episode, but the person, Quentin Tarantino, came up, and we were talking about how he's a revisionist and how he looks at the past and is like, well, I'm going to tell it this way, and I'm going to change this story when I make this movie. And it feels like there's an element of that happens with these adaptations where they're just like, we can't do all of it, if there's something that bogs down the anime, I think it's trying to do what you do in books, where you do have the name of the character said more often than you would in a film or a series, because they're the person's speaking, so you're reading it every time. And in this adaptation, it seems like they're constantly like, this is so and so was this person, and he did this, and it's like, you don't have to do that. Like, you could just show us. And then in the live action, they're just like, yeah, no, Ashura's here, but she's the Hell Princess, and then she's gonna go and help the Hell King, and you're just like, all right, but is there a dragon orb? No orbs?
No dragon orbs.
Okay, got it. Seemed important before, but all right. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. What about the Rad Dude? Is Rad Dude in this? No, he's not? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is Onimaru, why wasn't Onimaru in the live action is what I want to know, because that's the best dude.
Yeah, that guy should just have his own I mean, Netflix should listen to this episode and just make that a series.
Yeah, Onimaru, Demon Hunter, let's go.
When he strikes that bus driver in the head with the chain thing and then flies on top of the bus, like, I would watch 8 seasons of that.
And he like blows a hole in the top of the bus and like shoots spirit energy, and like all the zombies just go like splatter everywhere.
Yep.
And he's like, come on, stupid, let's go.
yes.
This guy's the best.
He's such a great hero. Yeah. I also love the spells and incantations that are used in Hong Kong stuff, but also in like Japanese films.
Yeah.
It's just all the like it's, I don't know, the blasts of light and the weird, well, not weird, but the finger contortions that have different meanings that create
the Kujikiri.
All of that.
They cut the Kuji.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I just think, can do all that for sure. And the marble thing, I don't even know what that is, but it seems badass.
I just kept going in my notes, just like Marbles got shot a lot.
Yes.
Because he's got this like rad spirit katana,
Yeah.
and he can like cast illusions.
Yeah.
But really, you're there for him to just shoot
Yeah.
pachinko marbles out at people. And
Oh,
like,
for sure. Also, not once but twice is he shot before he can get his sword out of the sheath. He gets shot,
yeah,
and then he just puts it back in. Where I was like, "Oh, that's just embarrassing."
yeah, like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, take your sword out at least.
Yes, at least just. Oh, he's just halfway, and then he's like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
But he can take a bullet. Nobody can say he can't take a bullet. Guy
No, he got
shot.
shot like 7 times,
Yes.
maybe more. Dude, like, emptied a clip into him the
Yes.
first time. Like, what? And this, he's like still standing, like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And they just hide out in the girl's bedroom too. Like, a lot of the stuff, like, the first, I'd say 30 minutes is breakneck,
Yeah.
but in a good way.
Yeah.
And then they start exposition dumping.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, we really could have used a second pass on this script, I think.
Yeah. Oh, there's one that's definitely in this episode where it is well over a minute of exposition stuff that there's parts where you think it's gonna stop, and then he's like, and you're like, no,
No,
this
stop. We don't need to.
this can't be happening still.
With the same sad piano music
yes,
playing.
just going. You know what? Let's put the music back in this part of the episode too. Perfect. Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. I'm so glad
Yeah.
you brought it to my attention because I may have gotten into it eventually now that I saw Peacock King, the live action, and then the sequel. And I don't think I'll get all the way back to the manga on this, but I'm definitely going to watch the rest of these episodes because that's just how my brain works. I have to complete it. And I want to watch them in order just to see what that experience is like because I feel like these aren't on Blu-ray. So
No.
there could be in the future. Here's what should happen is I will buy them on eBay for too much money, which will trigger the Blu-ray release
Yeah.
for cheaper, inevitably within weeks. Because the animation is great. You said this was made by Madhouse, you said?
These 2 episodes were made by Madhouse, yeah.
And they were prolific, or I don't know anything about them?
Yeah. So, like, especially around this time period, they were pretty prolific, and they had a lot of work that they did, especially the films. Like I said, Ninja Scroll, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. If you've never seen that, is amazing. It's like a post-apocalyptic, but like cyberpunk, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It's like a vampire riding like a cyborg horse.
Yes.
You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And you're just, but he's got a sword, and there's magic.
Yep.
And you're just like, okay, cool, yeah, great. Werewolves, swords, cyborg horses, guns. You're just like, whatever, fine. Put it all in there. I don't care.
It's like they had a dry erase board and they're like, what's cool? And they made a list and then someone else walked in and was like, this is all going in? And they just threw it all in the movie.
That one specifically is based on a novel series.
Okay.
So that there's 2 films. One is Vampire Hunter D and one is Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. And they both loosely adapt 1 book each.
Okay.
But yeah, like Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, Ninja Scroll, all like Demon City, Wicked City, all that stuff is classic. Cyber City, yeah, they were pretty prolific. And then their TV stuff too is really good. They did this show called Birdie the Mighty, which kind of inspired Zack Snyder with a lot of like Superman stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like Birdie's kind of like similar in terms of like original Superman powers, like leaps tall buildings and like super strong and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that like visual language that he kind of cribbed when he was making his Superman movie. So stuff like that is really cool. I would definitely check them out, especially from the late 80s till like I'd say 2000 is when they were, I think, at their height.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that some of the later episodes, I had kind of just checked out little bits of them because I was like, it goes to the 90s. Like, and it gets that early 90s stuff where it's, I don't know if it's
well, these ones were the 90s.
These 2.
Yeah, these were 94. And the other 3 were 89, 80, 86, 87 or something. Yeah, so like the other, how the other 3 were supposed to come out first.
Yeah.
So they were in the late 80s.
And
made by a different company.
I found one that looked like Ghostbusters the animated series.
Yes.
Like it was like I don't know what that design even is, but I was just like, this seems later, but
it was earlier.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is really strange. That's really throwing me off. Huh. Yeah.
That's the kind of the charm about Madhouse, especially in the early 90s, is that they don't make them like this anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
Madhouse had that like really gritty, really edgy kind of style. That was like their house style. Any of the projects that they did, like, I mean, even something like Record of Lodoss War, which is a fantasy show, has a very gritty kind of like, it looks like, you know, the artists like ground their pencils into the
Yes.
paper. Like it's just like
Yeah.
thick lines and everything is giant chins and faces. And, you know, you're just like, okay, this is awesome. Like,
Yes.
you know, pointy heads. And
Uh-huh.
you're just like, all right, awesome. Whatever this is amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I had looked for what was responsible for the making of the film, and on IMDb I didn't see that. So I'll look
Yeah,
that up.
Anime News Network has a lot of that. It's pretty comprehensive.
Ah,
They have an encyclopedia, and they'll list like the production company and like the director and who will.
okay.
So I do it all the time. Like I'll go down the list and be like, who is the animation director, and I'll click their name and I'll see like what else they worked on, and then look up their art because this thing looks so awesome. So it's like, how do you how do I get more of it? You know?
Yeah, I got this book, The Essential Anime Guide, that Patrick
Yeah,
Macias just did,
nice.
which is great for someone like myself because I don't know really anything. And it's a great layout. It's very informative how it introduces things. I mean, because it's so vast and so much history to the art form that to have something that you can feel an introduction to and
Yeah,
some lineage, but it can't be comprehensive because it would be tomes, you know?
yeah, yeah. You would have like an encyclopedic volume for each like decade.
Yeah, but it talks about, and I mentioned this on an episode, so if people are like, Dirk already talked about Astro Boy, but I had no idea the importance of
Yeah,
Astro Boy and Tezuka, is that his name?
Tezuka.
Tezuka.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved Unico when I was a kid. We,
Unico,
we
yeah.
we had the VHS, and I knew nothing about it. I didn't know it wasn't from the States or anything. It's so bonkers and wild, and I was like, I love this, but couldn't find anything Unico. And so to be in my 40s and read this and be like, oh my gosh, like this came from the person that also feels, hugely influential in the art form of anime. I was like, that's crazy cool. Like
Yeah.
the connections there. So like with
If
anything, it's just like just dig further once you find one
right,
thing.
right. If you like Astro Boy, and you have a special place in your heart for Astro Boy, go watch Pluto on Netflix.
Pluto.
Pluto. It's a loose sequel to the story of Astro Boy. Astro Boy's in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it takes place like there's like a big world war with all the robots, and then it's like after the fact, and it follows the most of the story follows this robot detective called Gejikto,
Okay.
right? And he's like the greatest detective, basically, the Sherlock Holmes of robots. And he's trying to solve this like murder mystery, where he's like jaunting around the world. It's really fun. It's a really great show.
Okay. I'll check that
Yeah.
out. Pluto.
Pluto, yeah, like the Disney dog.
Okay.
Or the planet, I guess would be a better, or the planetoid.
Or the bad Eddie Murphy movie, Pluto Nash.
I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, no, don't bother.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. So, any final thoughts on Spirit Warrior 1 and 2?
Watch it. It's amazing.
Yep.
See if you can find a Japanese dub, because at the very least, those exposition dumps are a little easier to.
Yes, that's the other thing is I think I would have had a completely different experience because I always turn off any dubbing and I
Yeah,
like to hear it in whatever language, whatever country the film or animation is coming from because it does such a disservice. It really
yeah,
I've seen wonderful films from Poland that seemed like the cheapest garbage because the terrible dubbing.
yeah.
And you turn it off and suddenly you're like, "Oh, this is a different culture," and you sit into whatever you're going to watch rather than hearing some voice come out of somebody that is not the voice. Like,
Oh, yeah. Can we just real quick back up, and was it the one Buddhist warrior monk? And he looks like Dave Bautista, right? Like
yes,
with
yeah.
like hair, and he's like this butch macho dude with like a gigantic chin, and his voice is like this.
Yes.
I'm going to fight you now.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, what is this voice coming out of this guy? He's a humongous monster.
Yeah.
Like, he should be like this deep voice guy. And
Yeah.
I'm not doing a good job of it, but that's what it should be.
Yeah, he should be like, "I'll crush you," and instead,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's like, "Get ready to fight."
Murder you with psychic energy.
Yes, that's it. You won't even understand how I'm murdering you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
By the
true.
glory of heaven.
Yes, glory.
But it's just, yeah, I mean, I watched the dub because I knew you'd be watching the dub, and
Yeah.
I kept finding myself going, did they add this scene in?
Yeah,
Is this something that happens in the Japanese dub? And then I'm like, no, wait, I just switched the language track. This actually happens. Why does this seem like it's longer?
yeah. That's it. Bad,
Yeah, watch it in Japanese if you can. And I think they have the discs on Amazon. They might still have them.
Okay.
So if you don't have them in a video store, like Movie Madness probably will
There you
have
go.
this, but
Yeah.
if you're not in Portland and you're not lucky enough to have Movie Madness, try and find it on Amazon. I think there might still be copies out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the episode. Anything else to promote, or where can people find you? I think I skipped over that in the beginning.
You can find me at 07 Animation, basically everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. I refuse to say X.
Yes,
And
same.
YouTube
Oh
at
yeah,
07 Animation.
there it is. ZERO. Right?
Yes,
Typed
all spelled
out.
out. ZEROSEVEN 07.
Fantastic. Well, Chris, thanks for coming on again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this has been VH Us.